but
How's it been since then?
um, since then I haven't had a lot of contact with them, but I feel that uh, I'm in a much calmer place regarding that situation, and
Okay.
I don't necessarily feel as uncomfortable as I did, and
Okay.
and I think that time heals all wounds. So uh,
Usually,
usually, so
usually, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'd say that I feel a lot more comfortable than I did on that Sunday when I sort of passed the sacrament. But
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
feel a lot uh,
Well, I'm glad to
more
hear that.
comfortable.
Glad to
Hmm.
hear that.
I still haven't really had any conversations with either of them yet, and
Do you want to have a conversation, like a one-on-one with Elder and Sister Peterson? Do you want that?
um, it's not necessarily something I've thought about and until you just now mentioned it, but um, so long as there's an ombudsperson there to uh,
Like a third party to
yeah,
listen?
yeah, a third party, uh, just to listen in on it. Uh, I wouldn't mind relaying to them that that I don't want subject matter regarding uh, or or inquiring about my own uh, sexuality and the policies of the church to be brought up in casual conversation again, and that was the predominant thing that bothered me, and it was also the predominant thing that made me drop the eternal marriage class last semester when uh, Elder Peterson had me in the corner of the room after the class was over, and both he and Sister Peterson and myself were the only ones in the building, and basically he was giving me, I guess, what I'd call a diatribe on marriage, whilst Sister Peterson just handed me tissues as I was crying,
Mm. Mm.
and so
Yeah,
I just would prefer,
I remember you telling me about that experience. You know, and
yeah, I would just prefer these topics not be brought up in casual conversation because his viewpoints differ from my own. I'm not going to change my viewpoints. He's not going to change his, and
so
it would be better not to ever discuss those sorts of things.
let me ask you this, because he's going to still be teaching classes and courses, and he's still going to be teaching. I don't know what the subjects are
Well, I've looked
this
on the
semester.
SNI app, and I'm not registered for any courses that he is instructing
Okay.
because I know after taking the teachings of President Russell M. Nelson class and him assigning us to read a talk by the prophet that compared people who support same-sex marriage to shoplifters, I know there's no way in hell I'm taking a class from him again.
Okay.
Just because that lesson made it such that my testimony of the goodness of President Nelson is kind of destroyed. And so, and right now I'm at a point where I cannot sustain the prophet, and just saying that because I had never discovered that he had such rhetoric that was antithetical to my own moral standpoints, and I just know I can't take a class from someone who's going to teach that particular rhetoric any longer. So I've purposefully avoided signing up for any classes that he's slated as the teacher of.
What would you do if it's not just in his class, Jimmy?
Well, I'd skip class on that day.
Okay. Because it's likely that, the topic of marriage and the teachings of the church may come up during another class. And, it's obviously wouldn't be intended to hurt you in any way, but they're not going to stop teaching the doctrines of the church and the gospel with regard to marriage, as you and I have talked at length about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the intention wouldn't be to hurt or offend you either. You know, it wouldn't be directed at you, Jimmy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to, you know, if that becomes the subject, I just want you to think about that ahead of time and decide, I guess, what your action would be, whether you get up and leave the class, or, you know, or if it's a Zoom class, disconnect, you know, I mean.
Well, I've disconnected from Zoom classes before when that subject has come up.
Okay.
And if it was an in-person class and it came up, I would probably just stand up and leave.
Yeah.
And not try and make a scene out of it or anything,
Sure.
but just, you know.
Because it wouldn't be directed at you. You know, there wouldn't be somebody standing up there going, I'm going to teach this because Jimmy's in the room. You see what I'm suggesting on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody that would do that and direct it at you for that reason. Because you're not the only one, even within our own ward, Jimmy, that feels like you do about marriage, about attractions to both men and women. You're not the only one, Jimmy. So those kinds of discussions aren't directed at you. It's just a declaration of what the doctrine and the principles that the church teaches.
I just wish there would be more of a standard for like how it's handled when, say, like someone like Elder Pearson brings up that topic and it makes me uncomfortable as his student, and yet he persists in it. I wish there was some sort of like, because at OU they have something called an LGBT ally program where they, you know, teach instructors to be inclusive of members in that community, and to not attack members of that community rhetorically. And there just seems to not be that same kind of respect in this church. In fact, last week, because I wasn't assigned to go to church, I went to a different church. Because I can't be myself here. I can't be who I authentically am. If I were to express to one of my best friends that I have feelings for him, I'd probably end up destroying that friendship.
Well,
and
you know, they don't.
I just can't. I'm in the middle of a thought here, but one shouldn't put themselves in an environment where they don't feel like they can be who they are. And I've realized that the only class I'm technically required to take in order to get, I guess, a certificate that I've done the Institute's sort of learning curriculum, or at least get a certificate of knowledge from here, the only class I'm required to take still is the Eternal Marriage class, and I can never take that.
I know that you realize that the church isn't a university.
I understand that, yes. I understand that the church is not a university. I
think you also understand that the church has standard gospel doctrines and principles that they will continue to declare and teach. And they're not going to deviate from those.
understand that.
Okay.
But they should also understand how to treat people.
Jimmy, has anybody mistreated you here?
Well, Elder Peterson's the only one I can think of right now.
Well, that was one-on-one.
One-on-one, and one with his wife while he was talking to me in the back of a room.
True. I would.
2 incidents.
Okay.
I've been mistreated.
And you felt like he was trying to convince you that you were wrong for feeling the way you do?
Yes, that's what I felt like. And I've complained to you about both incidents. And now this is the reason I don't talk about this subject with you, because I feel like you just put it on some doctrine pedestal. And
Do you not want me to, would you expect me to say anything other than what the church teaches, Jimmy?
what I know that you're going to say what the church teaches,
Okay.
but you don't offer any damn sympathy for what I'm going through.
Really? You really think that?
That's what it feels like based upon the facial expressions that I see. It feels like you go around talking about the doctrine and then you tell me like you can't understand what I feel, which is completely.
I've never said to you once that I can't understand how you feel.
You said that you don't understand LGBT issues, which is why I haven't decided to come and talk with you about.
When did I actually say that to you? Because I never have said that to you.
I recall this in our Zoom conversation where I wanted to talk with you about attractions to an individual that I realized I had, and you said that you didn't necessarily understand how I felt, and I decided to clam up about that and stop our conversation on that issue. That was during one of our Zoom chats in, I believe, June, which is why I haven't really wanted to discuss these issues.
You're certainly not ever going to be forced to. You didn't even have to come tonight, for that matter, you know.
No, but
I mean,
I wanted to, because
if you really feel the way that you're saying you feel, then maybe you shouldn't have come tonight.
no, I'm not feeling.
Sounds like you don't feel like that you can be honest about your feelings with me, or even trust me for that matter.
I'm just saying that I don't feel like there's an environment in this church where I'm allowed to be open about my feelings. Because every time people tell me I'm accepted, I see the writing on the wall, which is literally the proclamation of the family, which makes me feel like my viewpoints aren't accepted.
Well, the church isn't going to adapt their doctrines to your personal belief system, Jimmy. That's not the way the gospel works. It's not the way Jesus Christ works.
I understand that, but
what would you have them do? Eliminate the proclamation on the family?
no.
What would you have the church do then? I'm just asking. It's an honest question.
Modify it.
That's the doctrine of the church.
How come it isn't published with the damn scriptures? Go fuck yourself!